وكأسا دهاقا
دهاقا
لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا كذابا
لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا كذابا
جزاء من ربك عطاء حسابا
جزاء من ربك عطاء حسابا
رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما الرحمن لا يملكون منه خطابا
رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما الرحمن لا يملكون منه خطابا
يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة صفا لا يتكلمون إلا من أذن له الرحمن وقال صوابا
يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة صفا لا يتكلمون إلا من أذن له الرحمن وقال صوابا
ذلك اليوم الحق فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه مآبا إنا أنذرناكم عذابا قريبا يوم ينظر المرء ما قدمت يداه ويقول الكافر يا ليتني كنت ترابا
إنا أنذرناكم عذابا قريبا ترابا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. دار البلاغ للإنتاج والتوزيع تقدم سور جزء عام بصوت فضيلة الشيخ خليفة الطنيجي.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
عم يتساءلون.
عم يتساءلون.
عن النبأ العظيم.
عن النبأ العظيم.
الذي هم فيه مختلفون.
الذي هم فيه مختلفون.
كلا سيعلمون.
كلا سيعلمون.
ثم كلا سيعلمون.
ثم كلا سيعلمون.
ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا.
ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا.
والجبال أوتادا.
والجبال أوتادا.
وخلقناكم أزواجا.
وخلقناكم أزواجا.
وجعلنا نومكم سباتا.
وجعلنا نومكم سباتا.
وجعلنا الليل لباسا.
وجعلنا الليل لباسا.
وجعلنا النهار معاشا.
وجعلنا النهار معاشا.
وبنينا فوقكم سبعا شدادا
وبنينا فوقكم سبعا شدادا
وجعلنا سراجا وهاجا
وجعلنا سراجا وهاجا
وأنزلنا من المعصرات ماء ثجاجا
وأنزلنا من المعصرات ماء ثجاجا
لنخرج به حبا ونباتا
لنخرج به حبا ونباتا
وجنات ألفافا
وجنات ألفافا
إن يوم الفصل كان ميقاتا
إن يوم الفصل كان ميقاتا
يوم ينفخ في الصور فتأتون أفواجا
يوم ينفخ في الصور فتأتون أفواجا
وفتحت السماء فكانت أبوابا
وفتحت السماء فكانت أبوابا
وسيرت الجبال فكانت سرابا
وسيرت الجبال فكانت سرابا
إن جهنم كانت مرصادا
إن جهنم كانت مرصادا
للطاغين مآبا
للطاغين مآبا
لابثين فيها أحقابا
لابثين فيها أحقابا
لا يذوقون فيها بردا ولا شرابا
لا يذوقون فيها بردا ولا شرابا
إلا حميما وغساقا
إلا حميما وغساقا
جزاء وفاقا
جزاء وفاقا
إنهم كانوا لا يرجون حسابا
إنهم كانوا لا يرجون حسابا
وكذبوا بآياتنا كذابا
وكذبوا بآياتنا كذابا
وكل شيء أحصيناه كتابا
وكل شيء أحصيناه كتابا
فذوقوا فلن نزيدكم إلا عذابا
فذوقوا فلن نزيدكم إلا عذابا
إن للمتقين مفازا
إن للمتقين مفازا
حدائق وأعنابا
حدائق وأعنابا
وكواعب أترابا
وكواعب أترابا
وكأسا دهاقا
وكأسا دهاقا
لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا كذابا
لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا كذابا
جزاء من ربك عطاء حسابا
جزاء من ربك عطاء حسابا
رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما الرحمن لا يملكون منه خطابا
رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما الرحمن لا يملكون منه خطابا
يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة صفا لا يتكلمون إلا من أذن له الرحمن وقال صوابا
يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة صفا لا يتكلمون إلا من أذن له الرحمن وقال صوابا
ذلك اليوم الحق
ذلك اليوم الحق
فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه مآبا
فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه مآبا
إنا أنذرناكم عذابا قريبا يوم ينظر المرء ما قدمت يداه ويقول الكافر يا ليتني كنت ترابا
إنا أنذرناكم عذابا قريبا يوم ينظر المرء ما قدمت يداه ويقول الكافر يا ليتني كنت ترابا
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. دار البلاغ للإنتاج والتوزيع تقدم سور جزء عام بصوت فضيلة الشيخ خليفة الطنيجي.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
عم يتساءلون.
عم يتساءلون.
عن النبأ العظيم.
عن النبأ العظيم.
الذي هم فيه مختلفون.
الذي هم فيه مختلفون.
كلا سيعلمون.
كلا سيعلمون.
ثم كلا سيعلمون.
ثم كلا سيعلمون.
ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا.
ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا.
والجبال أوتادا.
والجبال أوتادا.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. On behalf of the Lagos State University Muslim Engineering Graduates Association LASUMEGA and Lagos State University College of Mercy Muslim Alumni LMA, I would like to welcome you all with the best and greatest form of greeting by saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This event is tagged Al-Fikr, Islamic Lecture Series. My name is Mahmoud Abdul Fattah. Inshallah, I'm going to be the moderator for today's program. I would like to appreciate our sponsor for today's program, Association of General and Private Medical Practitioners of Nigeria. At this junction, I'm going to call upon the chairman of this occasion, Dr. Ismail Ayobami, to give us an opening prayer and a welcome address. Please, sir, kindly unmute your mic.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. As-salatu was-salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. I give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has once again gathered here today for our series of lectures. We pray that Allah continues to shower His blessings and mercy on our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I also pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to bless the leadership of the Lasimega and the Lasipo Muslim alumni, as well as each and every one of us who has been participating in this program. May also pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues to inspire our lecturer to give us the best thoughts and the best of speeches at this lecture. May Allah make it to benefit us in this world and the hereafter. Sisters in Islam, I want to welcome all to this program. Everyone of us in Lasimega, Asuka Muslim alumni, and all professionals to this virtual lecture. It's really an honor for me to welcome our guest speaker, Professor Ishaq Laki Akintola, to this occasion. I'm not sure that there is anyone in Nigeria today that hasn't heard of Murik. For many of us as Muslims, we are very proud of what he does at Murik. Although some people will disagree with me, especially on social media, especially non-Muslims, but today we have the opportunity to listen to the very elder scholar and professor, to learn from him, for him to benefit from his wealth of knowledge, to be discussing with us today current affairs for Muslim professionals in Nigeria. Brothers and sisters in Islam, let's welcome Professor Ishaq Laki Akintola, who is also a director of the Muslim Rights Concern. Today, we're also having our health and technology tips after the professor's lecture. The health tips to be given by Dr. Karima Yusuf, and the technology tips to be given by Ustaz Sulaiman Bakare. Please let's sit back and enjoy this lecture. Assalamu alaikum.
Inshallah, Dr. Ibrahim Odolote and Idris Muhammad Lawan should kindly unmute their mic for the recitation of the Quran in English and Arabic.
No.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم سيقول سفهاء من الناس ما ولاهم عن قبلتهم التي كانوا عليها قل لله المشرق والمغرب يهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم وكذلك جعلناكم أمة وسطا لتكونوا شهداء على الناس ويكون الرسول عليكم شهيدا وما جعلنا القبلة التي كنت عليها إلا لنعلم من يتبع الرسول ممن ينقلب على عقبيه وإن كانت لكبيرة إلا على الذين هدى الله وما كان الله ليضيع إيمانكم إن الله بالناس لرؤوف رحيم صدق الله العظيم.
صدق الله العظيم. Ustaz Idris Muhammad Awal, can you please help us with translation of what our brother Dr. Ibrahim Odulati has just recited from the Holy Book Al-Quran?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم And when we made with you a covenant, saying, shed not the blood of your people, nor turn the party of your people out of your dwellings, there ye rectified our covenant, and ye were witnesses thereto. Yet it is who slay each other and drive out the party of your people from their homes, supporting one another against them by sin and transgression. And if they came to us as captives, ye will ransom them, whereof their expulsion was itself unlawful to you. Believe ye in part of the scripture, and disbelieve ye in part thereof. And what is the reward of those who do so? Save ignominy in the life of this world, and on the day of the resurrection they will be consigned to the most grievous doom. For Allah, it is not unaware of what you do. Such are those who buy the life of this world at the price of the hereafter. Their punishment will not be light, neither will they have supporters. Sadaqallahu al-Azim.
We thank our brother Dr. Ibrahim Odulate and Ustaz Muhammad Awa for such beautiful recitation. May Almighty Allah reward them abundantly. Now, our reporter for today's program are Ustaz Ablakim Aguru and Aja Semia Thompson Saba. They are saddled with responsibility of taking note of every salient point on the lecture for today. We're going to introduce our guest speaker and all other executives of this program. As earlier said by the chairman of the occasion, our guest speaker is Professor of Islamic Ecology, Muslim activist, human rights social commentator, and advocate of dialogue. His philosophy in life remains, I remain oppressed until the hungry are fed, the naked are clothed, the sick are healed, and the homeless are sheltered. His birth and childhood. Professor Isiaq Akitola was born in Obalaron compound, Ile-Ife. Isiaq's mother died while he was just 3. From the tender age of 5, crowd used to listen to Isiaq as he recited the Quran at Ile-Ife Central Mosque, Eluwa, where he was placed on the table for all to see. He finished his Quran at the age of 9. His education and professional career. He was soon overtaken by his childhood love for Islamic education, and he left his own town, Ile-Ife, for the famous Mount Arabic Islamic in Ibadan. His university education began with a certificate course in Arabic and Islamic studies at the University of Ibadan, where he excelled and got a decision plus the Arabic League Prize. In 1975, he traveled to Cairo, Egypt, where he studied simultaneous translation, Arabic, English, and French at Al-Azhar University, which is the first university in the world. He returned to Nigeria in 1979 and obtained his master's in Arabic and Islamic studies, as well as Master of Philosophy at the University of Ibadan between 1981 and 1983, respectively. He bagged his doctorate degree at the University of Ilorin in 1990. Professor Isiaq Akitola worked as a teacher of Arabic at Ishowusi Meria Grammar School, Iloko, Ilesha, between 1972 and 1974. And at Islamic High School, Orita, Bashorun, Ibadan, between 1980 and 1984. He became a lecturer at the Lagos University, LASU, in 1984. His jihad and dawah activity. Professor Isiaq Akitola is a born jihadist. Even as a young student in the Arabic institution, Ibadan, he led fellow students in a protest. After returning to Nigeria from Cairo, Al-Azhar University, he joined Dr. Beko Rasamkuti, Femi Falala, and others in the campaign for democracy to confront military dictators. He established 2 Islamic organizations, the Murik Rights, the Muslim Rights Concern, which is Murik, for the protection and promotion of the rights of Muslims in Nigeria and beyond, and Teledawa for the preaching of Islam on television, radio, through public lectures and tract. Today is the director of the Muslim Rights Concern, ambassador of Teledawa, and coordinator of Muslim Against Aid. Professor Isiaq Akitola is always in the news, either on television, on radio, or on the pages of newspaper. Professor Akitola is no doubt an icon of great treasure and a jihad of repute. Professor Akintola led Nigerian Muslims in the agitation for a week-free Friday. He also featured prominently in struggle to establish Sharia by engaging Christians in debate on radio and television. His deep knowledge for the Bible enabled him to defeat all his opponents. He has led Lagos Muslims to demonstrate against Israel and to protest against hijab restriction. Professor Akintola's boldness knows no bound. He's a friend of the oppressed, a champion of the masses. His contribution to peace and religious tolerance in Nigeria. Professor Akintola has used the two in him, namely the Muslim Rights Concern, MURIC, an Islamic human rights organization, and a Telidawa, a preaching outfit to promote peace and religious tolerance in Nigeria. Through MURIC, Akintola organized several workshops and seminars to enlighten fellow Muslims and Nigeria in general about the peaceful nature of Islam. MURIC has repeatedly condemned terrorism and all forms of violence. The press release of MURIC, which are broadcast on radio, television, as well as published in newspaper, have been able to dose off tension in the country on many occasions. Professor Akintola's weekly appearance on television since the early 90s and his other personal appearance as guest on other programs on different television channels have contributed immensely to bridging the gap between the Muslim and Nigeria of other religions in Nigeria. His second organization, Telidawa, has organized several programs which both Christians and Islamic scholars engage one another in friendly discussion to promote interfaith understanding. Telidawa has also printed tracts for free distribution to Nigeria, particularly on the thorny issue of ethnicity and religious bigotry. Professor Akila is happily married with children. Our chairman of the occasion today, Dr. Ismail Ayobami, is an alumnus of LASUCON, is a consultant hematologist and a career researcher with interest in hemato-oncology and transfusion medicine. Is a recipient of the prestigious Commonwealth Scholarship and also holds a master's degree of science in transfusion and transplantation science from the University of Bristol. He is the president of LASUCOM Muslim alumni. Presently, he works in Saudi Arabia and is married with children. Dr. Karima Yusuf, who is going to take us on the air tip, is an alumnus of LASUCOM. She has over a decade clinical experience with interest in obstetrics and gynecology. She is married with kids. While Ustaz Bakar Ismail is an alumnus of Lagos State University Engineering Campus. He studied electronic and computer engineering. Presently, he works as a fire and rescue officer with the Lagos State government. He is also married with children. So at this junction, I would want to call upon our guest lecturer to kindly unmute his mic while we listen to the lecture he has for us. Prof, the floor is yours, sir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum salam.
I'm happy to join you this morning. I seek A'udhu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil mursalin sayyidul anbiya'i khataman nabiyyin imamul mursalin habibuna qa'iduna shafi'una yawmal qiyamah Muhammadun Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man taba'ahu bil ihsan ila yawmiddin. Amma ba'd. I've greeted all of you. I have wished you the peace of Allah in your homes and in your workplaces. I want to express my gratitude to you for inviting me. I am happy to join you on this Zoom lecture this morning. This lecture organized by LASU Mega, LASU College of Medicine and Engineering. And I want to say salam alaikum, particularly to the chairman of this occasion, Dr. Ismail Ayobami. Having said that, and all the officials of Lasso Mega. Having said that, the topic we are expected to address this morning is contemporary current affairs for Muslim professionals. Current affairs for Muslim professionals are the same as current affairs for Nigerian Muslims. What are the issues that are burning, that are at the burning front in Nigeria today? What are the families discussing? What is on the what's on the media, social media? What is on Facebook? What exactly is going on in government circles at the federal and state level? We will try to address them as much as we can. I have listed only about 4, and the 4, let me read them out. The herders and farmers crisis, that's on the front burner. Then number 2, what's coming up in 2023? How does 2023 affect us as Muslims? What are we looking at for that time? And then we look at the cases of hijab and the issues surrounding the hijab affair, particularly in the Southwest. Then we have another national issue, which is the question of Arabic on the Naira, because about 2 or 3 people have gone to court, these are non-Muslims who are challenging the appearance of Arabic language or Arabic Ajami on the Naira. There are other issues, but I know our time is limited, and we have about 40 minutes for this lecture, and of course we may be cut short because we cannot. I don't assume that we are starting late. It's already 20 minutes after 9, and we have eaten into time already in the Mukoddamat, that is the introductions. As I go on, we start with the herders farmers crisis. The question is, herders who go around with their cows looking for pasture. If the cows don't get pasture, they might die of hunger. If the cows don't go out, they might not get water. But do the herders have the right to trample upon crops of farmers and destroy them? Those cows are not responsible. It is those who are taking them around that can guide them to where they can go and where they cannot go. But when they go to a farmland and they trample on the farms, they destroy crops. Farmers have spent close to 3 or 4 months taking care of the crops. Take corn, that is maize, or yam, for instance. These are things we plant in our farms. There are also cash crops like cocoa, like kola nut, and etc. Like cashew. These are cash crops. Now, the food crops like corn and yam take about 3 or 4 months before they can be ready for harvesting. If you want to harvest, then you must be you will be willing that you know, because as a farmer you have sweated so much, you have cleared your farm, you are cleaning it. in Ibadan, in Ondo, and in Akure is the same herdsman that is destroying farmland in Zamfara, in Sokoto, in Kaduna, in Kabi, and in Gonario now. And we don't have an ethnic matter. So we are saying government should step in and, with solutions. And I have a number of suggestions here. I have suggested through MURIC, through the Muslim Rights Concern, and we have issued these suggestions have been put in form of press statements, press releases in the past 3 weeks. For instance, we suggested that, look, the cows are not owned by the herders. There are owners of cattle that are somewhere. They are businessmen. They just hire herdsmen from the north who are Fulanis because they know that it is their profession. It is their tradition. They know about cows. So they hire them and bring them down. But the cows belong to the cow owner. So we have suggested that, look, let open cow grazing be banned. Ban open grazing. 2, give bailout to cow owners. The bailouts can be given by the federal government. Some state governments may contribute in the bailout. Give the bailout fund to the cow owners. The cow owners will build ranches, and that will stop the cows from roaming around and thereby spoiling or destroying crops on the farms. Apart from that, we have suggested that AK-47 being carried by herders should be banned by the police. Then register. Another suggestion is this: that all herders, all cow owners should be registered. The herders that we see on the roads or on the farms are not the owners of the cows. They are paid monthly or weekly. I don't know the arrangement. Therefore, if we can know the owner of the cows, then we are getting very close to the solution. Register all herders. The state government should be able to do that. When they register the herders, when they can also give them what I call the bailouts, and after that they can now start taxing the cow owners to generate to get some IGR, internally generated revenue. So that will help states in getting some money, and it will also curb the excesses of the herders. Any other herder that pretends is a herder and drives cows onto the farms or is carrying AK-47 can then be dealt with according to the laws of the land. Look at we have this wrong perception that cow owners are only in the north. That's not true. It's not. Cow owners are not only Hausa or Fulani. There are many Yorubas who have cows, many Igbo, and the other Ijo. All tribes have cow owners, but the cow owners are unknown to the public because they don't bring the cows to their houses. They don't bring it to their companies. The cows stay in the bushes, and it's only the herders who deliver to the cow owners. But nobody knows how they transact business. But we know that there are several cities in this, particularly Yoruba land, where cow owners, cow businessmen reside. I take, for example, the instance of Ijebu-Ode. In Ijebu-Ode, for instance, there are cow owners. Like from the past, we have the Olobo family, we have the Alaji Bush Alebiosu, we have the late Pa Dongo, late Pa Damboy at Ijasi in Ijebu-Ode. And today, this family still exists. Some of them still own cows. The example we are given can be used by the government of Ijebu-Ode, government of Ogun State, to launch the registration of cow owners. These cow owners can be taxed, and then their cows will be kept in ranches, and the issue of confrontation at Igogo, in Abeokuta, or in Ondo, or in Ekiti would not arise any longer. Also, we have suggested, I'm also suggesting that the governors of every state throughout Nigeria, they should be spending the security vote on this issue, because it's becoming a national calamity. And if we are not careful, if we don't handle it properly, we may be running into problems. Therefore, governors should also intervene. We should not give all the blame to the federal government. The state governors have their security votes. What are they using this security vote for? They should use it to mobilize traditional rulers, consult them, organize, let the traditional rulers to be organizing meetings. The traditional rulers know, the traditional rulers see the herders. They are in contact with the people in the community. The traditional rulers can invite all the herders in the community, sit them down and reach an agreement on pastoral feeding, and also on peaceful coexistence, and also on confronting the challenges of insecurity. I take, for instance, the example of Osun State. In Osun State, Governor Isiaka Oyetola, that's my namesake, Governor Oyetola has been very, very proactive. What did he do? He mobilized the traditional rulers, and each local government hold meeting with the politicians, like the local government chairman, the councillors. They are present. They invite the herders. They sit down. They agree. The herders attend. And this somehow, that is why in Osun State, in Osogbo, in Ile-Ife, in Ilesha, there has been no crisis, no confrontations, no killings by herders, and no challenging issues in Osun State. If other state governors would, that initiative alone, which was raised by the Osun State governor, cost money. The money came from the security vote. That is one example of what governors could use their security vote for. But when other governors sit on this money, preparing to use it for the next election, mansions, palace in France. That is the tragedy of the African citizen. So if other governors will follow the example of the Osun State governor, Isiaka Oyetola, we would and mobilize. The traditional rulers around him with our doors. Dirara, the Prophet said, there are no difficulties, there are no problems. Do not cause problems for yourselves. And the Quran says, "Wala tufsidu fil ardi ba'da islahiha." Do not cause destruction. Do not spoil things for yourselves after Allah has given you everything. So these problems are man-made, and I believe that there is no conflict, no crisis without a solution. If people will be patient, if we will stop tribal profiling, ethnic stigmatization, victimization also, and selective killing. Once you profile and focus on a particular ethnic group, that they are the criminals. The real criminals will be committing the crime, but because you did not open up your mind, you are not liberal, they will commit crimes. Some will commit crimes without us noticing it. Assume that there are innocent people, law-abiding citizens all over Nigeria, and that our
Technical team. Sorry, it looks like we've lost the lecturer. Are we trying to get him back on the platform?
Okay, I think we actually is actually no longer on the platform now. We might have to take other programs that we have on the schedule while we try to reach him.
Okay, Mr. Moderator, is over to you again. Mr. Moderator, would you want to take go to the next steps, to the next item on the program?
Hello. Now, the next item on the program is to call upon our sisters, Dr. Karima Yusuf, to deliver a lecture on tip. Sister, the floor is yours.
It appears Dr. Karima Yusuf is not yet on the platform. So can we take the engineering tips where we try and get her on the platform?
Okay, so we're going to call on our brother Ustaz Bakari Suleiman to take us on technology tip. Please kindly unmute. Unmute your mic. Please, can you kindly unmute your mic?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Now, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah bil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim, siratal ladzina an'amta alaihim, ghayril maghdubi alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Yes, my name is Sulaiman Bakari. So, Brother Sulaiman Bakari. In the I saw that I was being presented as Rufat Lemon Bakari. Okay. Okay, thank you. I work with Lagos State Fire Service in the operational department. I work as a fire officer and as a fire and a rescue officer. Operational department, this is the department that deals with strictly firefighting and rescue operation. You know, in fire service, I will, first of all, permit me to start this way. I know in the this thing we have there, we have it that I should talk on technological and probably health tips. But at times there's a saying that it is what you don't. No, I won't say that way. That what you don't have, you can't give. You know, but by the time I go ahead, you get to understand.
Unmute your mic, please.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm back. I'm back. So let me just go straight to the point. I have about 10 or 15 minutes about 10 minutes to spend. Let me just go straight to the point. I work in the operational department in fire service. What do we do in the operational department? What we do is to fight fire, to perform rescue operation. We also have the department that is called the prevention department. Their own is to go around, you know, try to do an inspection and the inspection, ensure they sensitize the community, the neighborhood. They are also to give lectures, sensitize people, orientate them, try to educate people, and to people have a lecture. Now, fire service. Basically, like I said, that our job is to perform rescue operation and protect life and properties. The primary objective is to fight fire, but beyond that, there are some other operations that we do perform. Let me start by saying this. 2018, that was the 2018, the day of our POP, our partner parade. I put a question directly to the director of fire service. I said, sir, fire with hazard. I mean, firefighters do with hazard. Fire comes with inflammable materials, hazardous materials. How often do we perform medical routine checkup in fire service? He gave me a response. He said on a yearly basis, once in a year. Once in a year. He said, yeah, once in a year. But now, because he came in that 2018, that now that is here, that he is planning on how to enhance and to make it probably on a quarterly level, on it probably 3 times in a year. Now, that's in 2018. After a lot of things happened then, and I had to brand new year. You can see the fire gear. This is what we call the bunker gear. We use this is what we put on in fighting fire. These is where I mean the appliances as well. Let me just quickly summarize and it goes to the point. That's in 2018 September. We're coming from a fire scene. All of a sudden, one of our firemen, my colleague, comes. They rush him to the hospital. Alhamdulillah, we were able to resuscitate. Came back to life. They gave us an advice that this guy have went through a lot of stress. He needs to take it easy. He has inhaled too much chemical. What have you? 2019, we have another issue of a slump fireman. 2019 December, same thing happened. 2020 January, we had the incident of we have that incident as well. In all of this, what is this telling us? That means there is a particular. I think that means fire operations is beyond what you and I see on a daily basis. That these are firefighters. They are panapana. They're just to come here and fight fire. When we did our investigation, a very practical example. Last year, March, we went for a particular fire. We went for a particular fire outbreak. That same thing one of my colleagues collapsed. He fainted. when he was rushed to the hospital, the Lagos State Commissioner for Health, he made a proclamation then. He said, henceforth, firemen should always ensure they do a routine medical checkup. When we're taking, because of that incident, we were taken to the hospital. We were all taken to the hospital. Those of us that are in that thing to perform medical checkup. My own, when they carried out my own checkup, the doctor said, Mr. Sulaiman, are you sure you engage in firefighting? I said, why not? Of course. He said, in what we are saying here, you are the only one that have a clean bill of health. You have no traces of any form of a chemical inhalation or what have you. And I said, sir, that's what we call common sense. That I applied common sense when fighting fire. And this is what
Okay. I think our lecturer is back. Hello.
Hello. Yes,
yes,
I'm back.
Pope is back.
Yes, our lecturer is back. I got a message now that he's back on the platform. So do we continue with the lecture while we suspend this of our brother here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So please, Ustaz Suleiman Bakar, please, can you just hold? We'll get back to you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Prof.
I want to apologize for the break in transmission. It was
Okay,
due to network failure. So I apologize to distinguished members of the audience who are here. I was discussing the issue of herders and farmers, and I've forwarded a number of suggestions, and I think it is time for me to move on to another issue. One of those I mentioned, which I listed earlier on, was the herder farmers crisis, which I've discussed. The second one is the 2023 issue, and the third one is the job cases, and the fourth one is Arabic or Naira. So quickly, I will run through the remaining three. Concerning 2023 presidential election, it should interest us as Muslim professionals, because although many criticize Muslim lecturers when they start discussing politics, and they tell you they don't want to hear anything about politics. What is your business with politics? But then it is because people are not yet sensitized, not well sensitized. We don't know that there is nothing in this world that you do that does not involve politics. Those in education, those in health, whatever sector you are, if you are not interested in politics, let's say you are a medical practitioner, you work in the government hospital, but then government policy is not favoring your practice. There are no drugs in the hospital, and government is making propaganda on television and radio that they have bought billions of naira worth drugs, yet there are no drugs in the hospitals. But it is politics they are playing. You can sponsor any of your members to go into politics to expose these issues. Because if you are not interested in politics, those who are in politics will continue to assume that, well, the people are not interested, so we can do whatever we like. Muslims in particular, when you say you are not interested in politics and you don't pay attention, you will be ruled by politicians who hate Islam. It is Muslim haters who will rule you. And that is exactly what is happening in Nigeria today. Look at what is the issue of hijab, for instance. If you can get whatever you want through governance, through the House of Assembly. If you have enough members, you handle the issue democratically, constitutionally. The issue is discussed in the House of Assembly or in the National Assembly, and then if you have more, a majority supporting it, it becomes it is legalized. It becomes law. And so what happens? You get what you want by engaging in politics. So if Muslims say they don't want anybody to discuss politics, they are only hurting themselves. They will be ruled. They will be ruled by people who hate Muslims. And when the government takes a decision, you cannot change it. You can only go to court to challenge it. And of course, government also has its own influence, even in the courts. Decisions from the court, from the lower court, will go to the court of appeal. From the court of appeal, it will go to the Supreme Court. And you know the situation in Nigeria. We have a very slow judicial system. In the Supreme Court, the case may not be heard until after 12 or 15 years. So where do we go from there? That is why we need to be interested. We need to show interest in politics. And I'm appealing to our professionals, medical professionals, those who are in engineering, and others who are listening, the whole audience. I want Muslims to pay attention to politics. And for 2023, what are our expectations? We are expecting that, of course, the North has had its own share of ruling for 8 years. By 2023, President Muhammadu Buhari would have spent 8 years in government. And then it is expected that governance will shift, power will shift to the South. And when it shifts to the South Southwest should show interest. And that is where you come in. The Southwest should show interest because we have issues on ground. There are people among the Yoruba who are agitating for an exit from the Nigerian project. They want to establish an Oduduwa Republic. And of course, with the Oduduwa Republic coming, nobody says Oduduwa Republic should not come. But what will be the position? What will be the fate of Yoruba Muslims? You will know your fate when you look at where you are coming from. Where are we coming from? What is our history in Yoruba land? The history of Muslims in Yoruba land has been one of persecution, stigmatization, stereotyping, discrimination in all aspects of life. Muslims are cheated when it comes to employment. There are places where you go for interview in this Southwest, and you'll be asked to go to the church or to a pastor to bring your letter of reference. There are places where you go. There was this story, narrated by a lawyer. He went to the office of a son. It was, I think there is a special document they usually get from sons before they start practicing. The son lined all those who came to his office and asked them that all those who are non-Christians should go away. But if you are Muslims and you are prepared to convert to Christianity, you will stay and get your letter on that day. They started by doing fellowship. And the son did not disguise what he meant at all. Those the Muslims who could not compromise their religion left the place on that day. That is the kind of experience Muslims have been having in the Southwest. There are no teachers of hierarchy in most schools in the Southwest. In some cases, when you report in a school as a teacher of hierarchy, you'll be turned back, or you'll be told to come and teach English literature, or government, or social studies, which are, of course, ways of ensuring that Arabic and Islamic studies are both eliminated from the system, the education system in the Southwest. And if this happens at primary school level, it will continue at the secondary school level, because a student who didn't get the opportunity to learn Arabic and Islamic studies at primary level will not aspire to do so at the secondary school level. If there are no teachers of hierarchy at the secondary school level, there will be no IRK candidates at WAEC and JAM. Then at the university level, nobody will be studying Arabic or Islamic studies. This is the plan of the enemies of Islam, and we have to wake up to it. But if Muslims have been suffering like this in the Southwest before the establishment of Oduduwa Republic, how are we sure that it will not be worse when Oduduwa Republic is established? Fani Kayode had cause to say that those who, after the establishment of Oduduwa Republic, they know where to keep those who are supporting the Muslims. And he said, he made this statement publicly. So we have to think of what to do before 2023 and how to mobilize ourselves in order to get a Muslim candidate there in the presidency by 2023. Let me do a little analysis for you concerning 2023. Well, we have had presidents, Yoruba presidents in Nassau Rock before now. Chief Shoneka was there. Chief Ernest Shoneka was there in the days of Abacha. No matter how short his days were or the tenure was, it is on record that he was a head of state of Nigeria. Well, this was followed by Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. He reigned as military head of state, Yoruba military head of state, for about 8 years or 9 years, handed over, and then he came back as a civilian head of state, and he ruled for another 8 years. But Obasanjo, take note, Obasanjo was a Christian. He's still a Christian. And Shoneka is a Christian, which means the two that have been heads of state from the Southwest have been Christian. There have been no Muslim head of state from the Southwest up to date, till today. And even when you look at the ministers from the Southwest that have been in government, ministers from the Southwest, they have been mainly Christians. In the days of Jonathan, former President Jonathan, he appointed 6 ministers from the Southwest. And all 6 were Christians. And we went to Asoro. The Sultan was in Asoro with about 6 of us to complain that, Mr. President, Mr. Jonathan, you appointed 6 ministers from the Southwest. All of them are Christians. And the Southwest, majority of the people in the Southwest are Muslims. Well, you have to be fair to the Muslims. Apart from the fact that he started saying some other things, he only promised that he would do something about it. And what did he do? He only gave us 2 ministers afterwards. 2 ministers. There was one, Mr. Adesina, who became a minister at the time. I can't remember the second Muslim. But 2 out of 6 was not even good enough. But that is what we have been experiencing. Now, if there's going to be a Yoruba candidate, presidential candidate from the Southwest in 2023, we all should think of how to mobilize and support a Muslim. I don't know, whatever name will be suggested, whoever is interested, those who will want to contest, we should encourage the Muslims to support him. Next, I will go to the crisis of hijab, particularly in the Southwest. If I still have time, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. But let me quickly give the information that, the right to use hijab is enshrined in Section 38 of Sections 1 and 2 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And yet, we are not allowed to use it. Our daughters are not allowed to use it in the schools. In Ogbomoso, Muslim students were driven out for using hijab. In Abeokuta, Muslim students were driven out for using hijab. In Ibadan, in the international school, Ibadan, of the University of Ibadan, Muslim students were locked out for weeks for using hijab. In all these places, the cases are in court. It happened also in Lagos. But today, the Lagos government is managing the crisis very well, because each time we have such an incident, we report to those in government, and within 24 or 48 hours, they resolve it by warning the teachers. Some teachers have the audacity to accost Muslim children inside commercial vehicles on the way to school because they're wearing hijab. They force them to remove the hijab, or they remove it from their heads inside the commercial bus. Then they slap them. And then on the road, they do the same thing. They snap the hijab from their head, they snatch the hijab from their head and beat them up. Though those students are not inside the school compound, the impunity of these teachers, their excesses is getting out of hand. And the only way to stop it is by ensuring that we have a case well determined in court. In Lagos, there is a case was determined some 5 years back. The same year or the following year, we went to the appeal court, and the appeal court gave us judgment that the right to wear hijab could not be compromised, should not be compromised, that every Muslim child, girl child, has the right to use hijab. But then Lagos State went to court, to the Supreme Court. The case is in the Supreme Court now for the past 5 or 6 years. And that, you know, the hands of law in Nigeria, the judiciary has this slow machinery, and the Supreme Court. That is that about. So when those of us who are professionals, because you are not into Islamic activism, does not mean that you should not be sensitized. You should not be well informed about your faith, about what is happening to people in your faith, about the need for your daughter to use hijab all the time. Because what they are trying to do is, if they stop Muslim children from using hijab at primary level, if they stop them from using it at secondary level, then they will not have the audacity to use it at the university level. Because, you know, in Quran, we say, that is, you train your Muslims train their children from childhood, from infancy. Children who are not used to using hijab at primary and secondary will even rebel against their parents if they are asked to use it after maturity. That is the game our enemies are playing. They are turning our children against us. It is up to us to ensure that we educate our children, and we support those who are sensitizing to use the issue of Arabic on Naira. Arabic language on Naira, Arabic Academy has been printed on several denominations of the Naira. The non-Muslims, Nigerian Christians, through CAN and through the back door also, have been mobilizing and campaigning against the existence against printing Arabic on Naira note because of sheer hatred, and because they want to ensure that there are no Islamic landmarks perfectly visible anywhere in Nigeria anymore. In particular, about 2 lawyers have gone to court now. One, Omirobo, challenged the existence of Arabic on Naira. It is presently at Ikoyi High Court, and of course, by the grace of Allah, Allah has made it possible for Murik, the Muslim rights concern, to seek to be joined in the case. We are now co-defendants in that case. Omirobo has sued the CBN, the Central Bank of Nigeria, asking them to remove Arabic from the Naira. We have come in through the court also, and we have asked the court to dismiss Omirobo's case. He has, one, he has no local standard. Two, what he's trying to say is absolute rubbish. Arabic does not, Arabic Naira, according to Wirobo, it's a form of Islamization. But Murik has reported something that no, Arabic on the Naira does not mean Islamization because on the Naira, Arabic is the language spoken and used by a large section of the population in Nigeria, in northern Nigeria, particularly in Borno. I can't remember the name of the tribe, but the population of that tribe is about 300,000. We can't estimate what that kind of that huge population is doing. What them off from the Naira, you cut off Arabic from a bearing of the Naira, then you cut that section of that portion of the population from using the Naira for their daily transactions. My brothers and sisters, the cases are in court, they are yet to be determined, and of course we are calling on you to stay tuned and mobilize your family, your friends, particularly define this issue when they are raised in your circles, in your WhatsApp groups. Let me also clarify the fact that whereas in a lot of WhatsApp groups, Muslims is being asked that we are going political. We are too we intervene in too many issues. I want you to understand that Murik has no hidden agenda. This is not an extremist group. This is not a group that encourages violence. Our motto is that, not violence. And of course, because our enemies, the enemies of Islam, they feel threatened by our appearance because nobody has been challenging them in the past. They had had a free day all the while. They had been harassing Muslim leaders, harassing state government, Muslims in their state. There was nobody to defend the Muslims or protect them. But now, hearing the voice of Murid, and they are jittery. That is why they are using this language to blackmail Murid, to silence us. Don't forget that at the stage, some of them said Akitola received, I think they said $200,000 from Islam, from Boko Haram. They could not prove it. And that is one reason why you should know that they are out for very diabolical purposes. May Allah continue to protect all of you. May Allah continue to bless your family. May He elevate you in your places of work. May He continue to promote you. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. ولقد سبقت كلمتنا لعبادنا المرسلين أنهم لهم المنصورون وإن جندنا لهم الغالبون وإن جندنا لهم الغالبون وإن جندنا لهم الغالبون بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم واذكر في الكتاب إدريس إنه كان صديقا نبيا ورفعناه مكانا عليا سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Jazakumullah khairan, Ya Sheikh. We thank our ustaz, our father, our preceptor for such a so inspiring lecture. May Allah continue to guide you, protect you, and increase in knowledge. Now, at this junction, we want to leave the floor for those who have questions to ask regarding the lecture we have just heard. Because I was once a victim of what Prof said. I went for an interview in VI before I got my job. It was a panel of 5 people, 2 women, 5 men. They asked me to study the first law of thermodynamics. I stated it clearly. They asked me what is it. I said that law is deficient. That was what gave rise to the second law of thermodynamics. Then I stated Fleming left-hand rule of electromagnetic induction, explaining the principle of operation of a generator. Because they are into a generator. Then the head of the panel said, "Oh, young man, you are very, very intelligent. Very well, I give it to you. You are very, very intelligent." As the man was praising me, The woman there wanted this man to know that this guy is a Muslim. He said, young man, your name is Mahmoud Abfatah. I said, yes. You are a Muslim? I said, yes. He said, then does your religion prevent you in working in some places? I said, places like where, ma? Selling pork meat, alcohol? I said, ma, let me make it clear to you. If you were into alcohol and pork meat, I would never have applied for this job. So it would be still hypocritical of me to claim I'm a Muslim and apply for such. I will never. When I got home, my uncle told me, bet me you have lost that job. They will not get back to you. I seriously, they didn't get back to me. Just because I was a Muslim. So we Muslims are really suffering in this country. But eventually, the job I am today, I never applied. I don't know who took my CV to them. The person that called me, I got the job, I don't know him. I was on my praying mat when I got a call that I've been invited for interview. How the person that called me today, I don't know him. How he got my CV, how he got anything about me, I don't know. I never wrote an exam, went straight for the interview. That's where I am today. That's Allah for you. So please, if you have any question regarding the lecture given by our father, please let us ask, or we can signify by unmuting our mic and ask this question, because Muslims are really suffering in this country. It is pitiful. I feel like crying. So any question from anyone?
Yes, I have a question, sir. This is Sulaiman Bakari.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. In fire service, we are advised. No, it is compulsory that we are meant to shave our beards. What they claimed that we are also paramilitary. And in paramilitary, we are supposed to be smart, looking smart, shaving beards, having a low cut, what have you. But when I had a conversation with them, an argument, what they now told me is, even you as a safety officer, you are not supposed to be leaving your BS, because if you go and engage a firefighting, this beer is also a threat to your life. It could catch fire, what have you. That is number one, sir. That how can we? Is there a way? In that regard, what can we do about it? Should you just take it quickly and think that, okay, as a fire officer, you are supposed to be shaking your BS. Let's just accept their law, or just obey it. Then number two is on Fridays, as an emergency responder, at all time, we work 24 hours a day, 24 hours shifting. So on Fridays, when I'm shifting my working hours on a Friday, you are not, though it's not clearly stated that you are not allowed to go for Jumat. No, it is not stated. But what we are being told is, if an emergency actually comes, and at that time when you're supposed to be at the mosque for Jumat, that your first responsibility is to save people's life. That means you have to respond to that emergency before you respond to the call of Allah. So those are the two questions I want to ask, sir. How do we... Yeah, that's my question, sir.
Do we respond immediately, or we wait until others?
No, we respond immediately. Then when the time elapses, you can just move on. So,
My brother Sulaiman Bakari, there is nothing wrong for a Muslim to be in that kind of job. The issue is the way these jobs are treated in Nigeria. They are used to intimidate Muslims. They are used to marginalize them. In other countries, the fact that you are an emergency worker does not mean that you will not be able to worship. It does not mean that you will not be able to maintain your appearance as demanded by your religion. That whatever are allowed in other countries where there are Muslims. It is only in Nigeria where we practice acrobatic religiosity, particularly on the part of the non-Muslims who are bent on who are bent on oppressing poor Muslims. They are the only ones who don't allow Muslims to wear, to appear, to dress like Muslims, because the sight of Muslims is just so hateful to them. It's abhorrent to them. They have a phobia for Islam, and they have an allergy for meeting Muslims. The major reason why they oppose the use of hijab in particular is the fact that, well, they have been telling the outside world that the whole of Nigeria has been converted. Nigeria is now for Jesus. And they know that when outsiders come into this country and they see our women dressed in hijab, their lives will collapse like a pack of cards. So that's one of the reasons. So I think the way out, Mr. Sulaiman Bakari, is for you to interface with your fellow Muslims who are in this job together. You should have an association of Muslims in emergency services. You should come together, write to the authorities, and also copy the Muslim Rights Concern, copy NAPOMIO, copy the Muslim Student Society, MSS, copy the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, and so on, and then see whether some of these groups will take action. Thank you. On the issue of Friday, it's a general thing. If you could include it in that letter, you want to write to the authority, and the one you will send copies to the Islamic organization. We'll take it from there.
Yes, Prof, there are two questions here. One from Odu. If in 2023 we have a Yoruba Muslim candidate, then the vice must definitely be a Christian from the north, which is a minority in the north. Don't you think that such a ticket will lose the vote of northern Muslim majority?
Come again? The last.
In fact, for instance, if a particular party fits a Yoruba Muslim as his presidential candidate, to balance that ticket, you need to come out with a northern Christian. And we know the Christians in the north are minority. Don't you think that that will make that particular ticket not to fly?
Of some groups. But that should not deny us. It should not deprive us of the right to fight for that position. The northern Muslims need to be sensitized. If we sensitize northern Muslims and make them realize what Muslims in the southwest are suffering from, because there has never been a Muslim president from the southwest. That is why the case of Muslims in the southwest has never gained attention at the center. So the moment we have a Muslim from the southwest as president, the southwest Muslims will take their case to him, and they will lay emphasis on it. And the central government will then show interest. Right now, they are not showing interest.
Okay, sir. Now, there's another question. He said, how do other Islamic bodies relate with MURIC? Is there any strong support from them? What is the level of your relationship with other Islamic bodies? The level of relationship, what kind of, the quality of relationship between MURIC and other Islamic bodies? Do you have strong support from them?
I want to tell you that we still interface. And I can say that, yes, MURIC enjoys relative support from other Islamic bodies.
Thank you very much, sir. I think at this juncture, we're going to thank you so much for creating time to lecture us on this. May Allah tell us if it message strengthen you in faith, make your foothold firm on the path of an Islam. And may Allah take all our lives with the kalma la ilaha illallah as our last words. Thank you very much, sir, for this. I'm going to call on our brother Ustaz Bakar Suleiman to continue his lecture from where he stopped. Please kindly unmute your mic. Brother Suleiman, are you there? Okay, if we can't reach out now, Dr. Karima Yusuf. So, in the absence of our two lecturers chosen for this program,
I think both of them are there on the platform. Ustaz Sulaiman Bakari is there, but I think there may be problems with his mic. I think he's back here.
Okay, this is a short screen from Dr. Karima.
No. Hello.
Who now? Who is sending this?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. I think we have Dr. Karima Yusuf with us right now.
Do you want me to start, or do you want the Sulaiman to?
No, you can start. You can start. Thereafter, you can put your start.
Okay. Just 1 minute while I try to share.
Okay, no problem.
Dr. Karima, the screen is on. The screen is on.
Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulullah. So today I'm gonna do a short talk on cervical screening and prostate cancer. I've got very limited time, so I'm gonna have to be very quick with this. I may not do proper justice to this topics. So cervical screening. Before I start on cervical screening, I just want to give a brief overview of what screening is all about. Screening is a process which is aimed to identify people who are at risk of having a disease. So basically, what we do in screening is we target a population of people who have got no symptoms, they've got no disease at all, and we test them to see if they are at risk of having this disease. And if there are any interventions we can offer them to prevent them from having this disease in the future. There are lots of screening tests we do in the UK, like the bowel cancer screening. We also got the cervical cancer screening and diabetic eye screening. I must emphasize here that there is no screening test that is 100% effective. So what is cervical screening? Like I said, it's just a way of preventing cervical cancer by detecting and treating any problems or any abnormalities within the cervix that could lead a woman to having a cervical cancer. It is not to test for cervical cancer at all. It's just to see if she would have this cancer of cervix. And in the United Kingdom, since they've introduced this cervical screening program, there has been a significant decline in the incidence and mortality of cervical cancer, so about 49% or so. So what they do in the United Kingdom, unfortunately, in Nigeria, we've not got any screening program at all. But in other countries like the United Kingdom, Canada, and US, they have a screening program, for a cervical screening program for their ladies. So in the UK, they screen for the there are three things they screen for. They screen for a viral infection, which is called the high-risk human papilloma virus, and they screen for other abnormalities of the cervix, which is the CIN and the CGIN. So what is this viral infection, this human papilloma viral infection? It's the principal cause of cervical cancer. In fact, studies have shown that 99.7% of cervical cancer contain this infection, which I will call HPV from now. So it's human papilloma virus. It is very common, especially in women under 35. In fact, up to 80% of the population have had HPV at one point in their lives. And there are so many different types of it, over 100 subtypes. Some are low risk and they usually cause the genital warts and some other cervical abnormalities. And then there are the high risk ones, which are the ones we are worried about because those are the ones that can lead to cervical cancer. How do we get this infection? It's majorly transmitted by intimate skin to skin contact and it's a very common sexually transmitted infection. One of the, well, like I said, the bad thing about it is that when you get this infection, you don't know you have the infection. So it's basically asymptomatic. But the good thing is that most of the times your immune system is able to deal with it. And within 2 years, your immune system should clear this infection. However, in about 10 to 20% of women, this infection it still persists. And it's these women that are at increased risk of having the cervical cancer. Unfortunately, there is no treatment for this infection at all. Your immune system just has to deal with it. However, if it does cause some changes in your cervix, which we can be picked up during the cervical screening, they can take out that part of the cervix, and sometimes that can lead to the infection clearing away from your system. So like I said, in Nigeria, we've got no proper screening program for cervical screening. But in UK, what we usually do is that we offer cervical screening for women aged between 25 and 64. So I always tell people that back home in Nigeria, look, women from 25 to 49, try to get your cervical screening every 3 years. And then when you start from 50 to 64, just try to get it every 5 years. That's what is done in UK. Just as long as you're getting this regular screening, just to be sure that you are not at any increased risk of picking up the cervical cancer. And usually from the age of 65, you don't need any cervical screening anymore. So I'll tell you how we do it in the United Kingdom. What happens is that when you come for the cervical screening, they check your cells to see if you've got any infection, this HPV infection. If you don't have this infection, which usually happens in about 87% of women, they then tell you, okay, look, you're fine. Come back in another 3 years for repeat screening. If however, they identify that you've got this infection, immediately they check to see if the infection has caused any problems in the cervix, any structural problems in the cervix. If there are no any damage to the cervix at that point, they tell you to come back in 12 months' time, in a year's time, to repeat this screening to be sure that the infection is cleared or to be sure that there's no any structural damage to your cervix. However, if you have structural problems or if they've noticed that there's some damage to the cervix after you've had the screening, they then refer you to the gynecologist for further treatment. The good news is that 13 out of 100 women will have this positive infection and only 1 out of 1,000 women will have the invasive cancer. Why are we worried about cervical cancer at all? Worldwide, after breast cancer, cervical cancer is the second most common female malignancy. Although in UK it's a bit different. And the truth is that if you do have the screening and you can pick up the infection, you can actually prevent most of the cases of cervical cancer. Also, in the United Kingdom, what they usually offer, what they call the human papillomavirus vaccine. And it helps to protect against these viruses that can cause 70% of the cervical cancer. And they usually offer it to women, boys and girls aged between 12 to 13 years. And it's usually about 2 doses. So, if we have our sisters on the program or our mothers, our wives, it's just to pass the message, the importance of getting the cervical screening as frequently as possible. I'll move on quickly now to the next one before I take any questions, which is prostate cancer. Okay, so what is this prostate we're always talking about? It's a small gland that is, if you look at the picture, there's prostate right there is just below what we call the bladder, which is above them. So it's just a small organ that is just below the bladder. And what it usually does is that it secretes some fluid, which we call the seminal fluid, which mixes up with sperm to make what we call semen. Note in this prostate gland, if you note, there's a tube-like structure in the middle of it, and that is called the urethra, which we call the water pipes. So what that does is that it helps to carry urine and semen all the way through the male penile structure. This gland is very small. It's about 20 gram. However, after the age of 40, this gland starts to increase, and sometimes it can increase to up to 100 gram. The problem with it is that when it starts to increase, because this water pipe is in between, is in the middle of this gland, the size of the prostate then starts to squeeze this gland, and that's where we get the symptoms of the prostate hypertrophy. So what are the symptoms we usually will see? The increased need to pee, especially at night. And when the man then gets to the toilet, he wants to wee, and then he has to wait a little bit. So he has difficulty in starting to wee. And then he notices that his wee is not flowing as it will normally flow. It has a poor urine flow. And then after he finishes after he has weed, he then notices that it feels like his bladder has not emptied properly. He pulls up his trousers, and then he notices that some drops of the wee has dropped onto his trousers, and that's what we call the terminal dribbling. And in some few cases, they may have the blood in the urine or blood in semen, loss of appetite, or unexplained weight loss. If you have any of these symptoms, see a doctor. It does not mean you have prostate cancer. It could just be a non-malignant enlargement of the prostate. But you need to see a doctor, because what the doctor does is that he's got to assess you, examine you, and sometimes we arrange for blood tests, which we call the prostate specific antigen. And then they also want to do some biopsy, take some tissue of the prostate. There's no specific test that can tell you, oh, you've got prostate cancer. This blood test called the prostate specific antigen testing, which is the PSA. It's not very specific. There are a lot of things that can make the level very high. However, in UK, if many men above 50 years can ask their doctors if they want a PSA test. So I'm sure we also do that in Nigeria. We can have that if you want to. But if you have any of these symptoms, it's very important that you see a doctor first. The bad news with prostate cancer is that 1 in 4 black men will get prostate cancer in their lifetimes. So what are the lifestyle things we can do now to prevent the risk? Dietary modifications. Studies have shown that taking daily meal consumption doubles the risk of having prostate cancer. Eating red meat every day triples the risk of having prostate cancer. Fruits and vegetables, especially tomatoes, foods that contain zinc like pumpkin seeds, have been shown to reduce the incidence of prostate cancer. Exercise. I mean, I'm not asking you to do jogging or cycling. Just brisk walking is sufficient. Exercise is very good. Also, things like avoid sitting for too long, avoid wearing tight underwear because they increase the temperature around the organs down below. Regular sexual intercourse. Studies have shown that celibate men are at increased risk of having prostate diseases. And like Allah has told us, no smoking, no alcohol, because it also increases the risk. So, if you've got any questions, I'm happy to take questions.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Karima Yusuf, for such a wonderful and so inspiring lecture. So do we have any, I think on the chat we have a question by saying, why are people in 65 above exempted from cervical cancer? I think I saw that question prompt up when you were talking.
Cervical cancer is not very common above that age. So usually at the age of 65, we in the United Kingdom, we usually will not offer it except the woman has never had any screening before in her lifetime. The peak incidence of cervical cancer is usually from the 30s to the 50s. After that, the incidence of having cervical cancer starts to decline. So above the age of 65, it's not very common to have cervical cancer.
Okay, thank you very much.
Also, I have a question, please. Dr. Karima, Alhamdulillah, you said for prostate cancer, we can easily have screening in Nigeria. But on the other hand, for cervical cancer, you said it's not too or it's not even possible to have such screening. I think I had that. But I have seen severally advertisements on cervical cancer screening and awareness in Nigeria. Sometimes it's always a week program, sometimes 2 weeks program where they'll have to invite women above 40 for cervical cancer screening. So I don't know, is that a scam or was it? So I want to make clarification on that.
What I was trying to say is that in Nigeria, there is no proper cervical cancer screening program. So basically, you have people that go for the screening as a one-off, as opposed to doing it regularly. Just because, like you've said, there's this awareness come for the cervical cancer, so people just pick it up and then just go have a negative test, and that's it for the rest of their lifetime. Whereas you can pick up the infection in another 3 years without knowing. And so what's the whole idea of this lecture is to let our sisters know that, look, when you've had this cervical screening this year and it turns out negative, that's good news. But try to ensure you get another one repeated in another 3 to 5 years.
I think a sister asked a question: if the screening shows out to be negative, the result, can the person go for HPV vaccine?
Well, the vaccine is supposed to prevent you from having the infection in the first instance. And
Okay.
I've told you, over 80% of women above 35 or from 35 usually will have had the infection anyway. So what they usually aim to do is to give the vaccine at a young age, where they've not been exposed to sexual intercourse, to prevent them from having the vaccine.
Okay.
So
I heard
to prevent them
you
from having the infection.
say, okay. Yes, before now, some people have told me, because we have some of us who can sit down from morning till evening so that we'll be able to finish the Quran in during Ramadan, like in 2 or 3 days. But they said earthwise is not too good. So I want to really ask, how is it earthwise? Because if really during Ramadan, because I want to finish the Quran in 3 days, I could sit at a particular spot, only leave for Salat, sit there till 4 in the evening. So I want you to advise me earthwise on this. Is it really good, or because somebody have told me that it's not good, could lead to prostate cancer later in yes. So hello, are you there?
Hello, sorry.
Yes.
So when we sit for
Yes,
too long,
to sit for too long.
most of the time our weight is resting on our pelvic bones,
Okay.
and this predisposes people to increased risk of having prostate cancers. So what we usually would advise is that if you sat for a few hours, stand up, do a little bit of work, then go back and sit. So it's not sitting down for prolonged hours. Or there are some comfortable chairs which one can get that will try to take off the weight of your pelvic bones. So if you could get those chairs, if you want to sit for a longer period of time, then try to get up those comfortable chairs. If not, then sit for a few hours, get up, walk a little bit, then before you go back to sit.
Thank you very much, Dr. Karima Yusuf, for this wonderful lecture. So do we have any other question for our sister? Is there another question? If not, we would want to call on our next lecturer, Ustaz Bakar Suleiman, to continue from where he stopped.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Let me just drive home my point. The high point of hello, am I on?
Yes, you are on. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. The number one hazard all over the world is the fire hazard, the topmost hazard. Why do we say it's a fire hazard? A fire hazard is an hazard that is permanent. The scars that emanated from fire hazard is a permanent injury. No amount of surgical operation that will be performed on a person that will bring back the original form it used to be. Any hazard that arises as a result of the fire hazard is a permanent hazard. That is why all over the world, the number one responder all over the world, when I say the first responder, check, you can even Google it, you can check it anywhere. I'm saying it, this is a fact. the first responder all over the world is they are the fire service. They are the first responder. And the reason is because close to 70% of emergencies, close to 70 to 80% of emergencies, we need a fire service. We need fire service to be on ground. Vis-a-vis fire outbreak, vis-a-vis rescue operation, even road vehicle accidents. You know, if we have a vehicle accident or probably a tanker accident, what have you? How many of us knows that if we have a rescue from a well, somebody fell into the well, that rescue is performed by the fire service. Rescue from a dam is performed by the fire service. From a canal, what have you? They are performed by fire service. That is why in the UK, thank God we have the doctor here. I think she can also testify to this. In the UK, US, and other countries like that, when you have someone that is planning to commit a suicide, probably from the upper floor of a building, the first people they invited, or the first responder that get there, that is needed there is a fire service. They are the one that will talk to the person. Please don't kill yourself. Don't commit a suicide. Don't do this, don't do that. The fire officers or the firefighters or the fire service, they are the first responder all over the world. And I wanted us to know the reason why why we need to be very, very conscious about fire hazard. Between January 1st, 2021, January 1st and February 16th, 2021, I just went to the logbook now to check it, so I can be very, very sure. So I won't be giving a figure that I'm not sure of. Between January 1st and February 16th, 2021, we responded to over 100. In fact, precisely, we responded to 151 cases of either fire or rescue cases. 151. That is just less than 2 months. So people will be wondering that firefighters, are they really doing this much? Like I told you, virtually every kind of emergency, not all emergency, but every kind of emergency needs a fire service that needs to be there. How many of us has a fire extinguisher in our home? Let's even start from our home. How many of us in our cars? Before I joined the service, I used to have this 1 kg fire extinguisher in my car. I said, and why is it so? I said, at least because of those safety and VIO, so I can just easily But the day we responded to a distress call somewhere at Obakran in Ikeja, to a burning vehicle at Obakran, that day I said, so this thing, I'm not having this extinguisher in my truck because of road safety and VIO. Is it because of myself personally? It's because of my own safety. It's because of my own welfare, not because of road safety or VIO. But most of us, what we normally do is, let me just have this in here, Jare, so they can just check and go. And most of all these things, if you look at it critically again, how many of us, the next question will not be, how many of us has a functional fire extinguisher, either in our homes or in our offices or in our cars? Then how many of us again has the fire extinguisher and either an expired? Most of the fire extinguishers, we look at it, probably they have expired, or sometimes you still have the expiring dates on it, but you need to be checking it on a real-time basis. So such that, because at times the extinguisher got expired even before the expiring dates. Might not really be that it's expired, but we have basically 2 types of extinguisher. We have 3 types. We have the water, we have the CO2, and we have the dry chemical extinguisher. That will take us to the classes of fire. I don't really want to go too much into the class A, class B, class C. These are the solid, fire, like our wood, paper, what have you, class B. So all these extinguishers, like the dry chemical extinguishers, is a dry chemical powder. It's meant for the class C fire, like in the filling stations, what have you. The chemical, the powder form a kind of a blanket. It form a kind of a coat on the surface. So, but in most cases, that chemical powder normally got archaic before the expiring date. So it's always good for you to be checking your extinguishers on a routine basis. It's very easy to check. Just take it, try and shake it. If you shake it very well, if the extinguisher is, if you are feeling a kind of probably you'll be feeling it, that thing is, yes, I still have a content in it. But if you are shaking and it's very stiff, you're not even feeling anything at all, then most likely it is not functional again. Another way of checking it again is if you look at your nozzle, we have a reading like a thermometer. When you look at the thermometer, the readings goes from 0 to probably 240 or 3, as the case may be. When your direction, the arrow is pointing to the angle 0, that means that thing is. But if it is okay or it is up to date, it will be at the center on the green line. It will be on the green line. That tells you your extinguisher is probably up to date or is very okay.
Okay.
A case study. I'm driving my point. A case study. I went to my mom's house recently. Just generally this, and I said, Mom, what happened? This your we got a small extinguisher for her. I said, extinguisher, this your extinguisher is not functional again. And she said, what is our own there? Are you not a why do I have you as my child? Are you not a firefighter or a fire this thing? So why are you here? So that means I'm not able to do my own job as ought to be, even in my house under my nose. Before I joined the service, I can tell you confidently that I don't know the phone number or the emergency line of fire service or any kind of emergency. Even up till now, I thought I wake my wife up. I said, Asia, what is the emergency line of what is the phone number of fire service? I said, I've forgotten, Jara, I've forgotten. She doesn't even know it offhand, but she saved it. Okay, you already saved it because she's now married to a fireman inside this. But even in our compound, how many in my neighbors doesn't even know because there's a lot of work needs to be done by us. I'll give 2 instances. In my house, right in my house, my neighbors, they don't even know it. They don't know the emergency line in my house. The house that is privileged that they have a fire officer in that house. So talk less of now saying the next 40 hours, like the Prophet ﷺ said that a Muslims should be from 40 to the right, 40 to the left. So probably the next 2 or 3 houses, the next 3 or 4 houses. So that means most of us we're not even conscious of all these things. So if I'm talking about my house there, so talk less of the kind of people we have out there. How many of us has that number, or how many of us even know what we are supposed to do when we have an emergency, a fire outbreak, probably before the fire officer, the fire service, before they comes around.
Yeah.
Last month, we had the last mega program. In the estate that we had the program, when we were moving out of the estate, I saw a fire notice at the end of the state. I said, these people, they really tried, they have a fire notice there. But looking at the fire notice, I noticed it's an expired fire notice. All the phone numbers on that notice from Ikorodu fire station, from Alausa fire station to Ekpe Badagry, they are all old phone numbers. And I told my brother, I said, Afghan, we need to expire. He said, oh yeah, Brother Suleiman, please get us. And I told him that day, I said, Inshallah, by next week, I'm going to get another notice where I will send it to you. Till this moment I'm talking, I'm also culpable. This moment I've not gotten that fire notice for them. And this is a very dangerous thing. That means if there's an emergency that break out in that area, they will be calling the wrong number. Or they will be calling fire service. I think switch off on you. It's not going, it's not connecting, it's not this, it's not doing that. They are calling wrong numbers. The fault is from us. It's also from we are both culpable.
Yes,
so inshallah, maybe when I'm saying this now, I can quickly send the notice to Brother Afghan. So then the last point I will just try to, we should all try to understand that fire has destroyed billions of properties, millions, thousands of lives in Nigeria. So this tells us that it's a very, very important area that we need to pay very attention to it. Lastly, our doctor is there. In the UK, Before, how many of us, before they build their house, how many of us engage the fire service before building your house? In the UK or the US, another civilized country, before you can even try to say you want to have a plan, not even your foundation, a building plan, not foundation. You must get a clearance from fire service. What is the reason for doing this? The reason is for them, they will be the one to plan they will plan your house, your building, this is for you. They will be the one to know if you have adequate means of probably from the entry and the exit or escape routes. They will ensure that they have a kind of outlining a clear pathway to the exit door. How many of us has a smoke detector in the house? These are the things we need to ensure we have with us. And lastly, I will want to give out the emergency lines. Please, whenever we have any emergency, most especially if it's a fire emergency, you don't call 112 or 767. That is the general emergency for Lagos State. Please call the direct fire service line 080 33 0033 23 5891. I'll take it again. 080 33 23 5891. That is Alausa headquarters. And if I need Ikorodu everyone, I stayed in Ikorodu. Don't need to call Alausa. Just call Ikorodu direct, Ikorodu Fire Service on 081 50 90 1926. 5090 1926 or 5090 1927. So call the emergency, call them direct. If you call 767 112, it takes minutes or what have you before they respond to you.
Exactly.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jazakumullah khairan, our brother, for such a beautiful technological lecture. But my question is this: most of us use cooking gas at home. So in the event or in the eventuality that there's a fire outbreak as a result of cooking gas, what is the first thing we should do to arrest this situation?
Yes. The first thing to do is this. If the fire is still at the initial stage, before a cooking gas can catch fire, the first thing you will notice is that you smell, there will be a hint, and that hint is smelling. You perceive that gas. The gas must have escaped into the atmosphere. Whoever is very, very conversant or that has a very good smelling, you must have known that it seems, that is why it's always advisable when you are going to bed at night, always ensure you locked your gas. So it is that smoke that gas that escaped to the atmosphere, probably after a period of time, maybe due to heat or what have you, that ensure that leads to the fire at this thing. So what we need to do is get the local way of combating that kind of fire is get a towel fully soaked with water. Towel fully soaked with water. If it's still at the initial stage, where it's only the cooking gas that is still engulfed with fire, take that towel, cover this immediately on the surface. The fire will extinguish immediately. But if the fire has already engulfed and is in the room already, the first thing is to do is to get the closest way of evacuating the house. Firstly, you have to evacuate and try to ensure everybody evacuates from the house. Then you cannot fight it from outside, not why in the scene. And what we have to lastly is bend down. When you are standing, you have the concentration is very, very high at the top while standing. The lower you go, the lower the rate of the lower you go, but the higher you go, the higher it is. Bend down, find a way to crawl out of the house. That is the best thing to do. Then you will now.
Thank you very much.
I've got the fire.
Thank you very much, Al-Ustad, for such a wonderful response. At this junction, I would like to recognize the president of the Confederate Alumni Organization, LASUMEG and LMI, president of LASUCOM, Medical Alumni Dr. Ismail Kamaluddin, and President of LASU Muslim Engineer Alumni Alhaji Abdulgani Yawadu. Permit me to call upon the chairman of this occasion, Dr. Ismail Ayobami, to give us vote of thanks for the today program. Please kindly unmute your mic and give us vote of thanks. Chairman, are you still with us?
I don't think he's with us. So call on Alaji Jawando.
Alaji, is he with us now?
Yes.
I'm with you, sir.
Yeah, Salam alaikum, Ya Sheikh.
Oh, Alexander.
Yeah, please, can you kindly give us the vote of thanks for today's program?
Okay, before I go into the vote of thanks, I would quickly like to make 2 comments.
Yes, sir.
Firstly is on the last question that was answered. And
yes, sir.
This has to do with the general gas safety. Because I've seen a lot of people putting their cooking gas in their houses. It's always better to have your cooking gas, your cylinder, outside of the house, where in case you have a leakage, it becomes very difficult for an ignition of a fire to happen. For those of us that do process engineering, there is what they call lower explosive limits. And that is you need a particular volume of gas, a concentration of gas, before fire can actually occur. That is very difficult to achieve in an open space. And that's why when you are trying to cook with those industrial burner outside and you try to light it up, if you don't put a pot on it or use something to cover it a little, the light will not come on. So it will look as if it's the gas that is putting off the fire. So that's because you are not able to achieve that. So the idea of keeping your cylinder inside the house is a very dangerous one. Even if you don't light a fire, by just putting on an electric switch, you can actually ignite a fire in the house. So let's try as much as possible to deal with this. Then secondly, I heard the profile of Dr. Ayobami, the chairman of Today. And is an hematologist of international repute. But I have had the concern which I've expressed with the organizers of this program on both sides, especially the doctors among us. We as Muslims, we continue to have this problem nowadays of our brothers and sisters giving birth to sickle cell children. For some of them, it might be a misunderstanding of qadar. While for some of them, is ignorance. And for some other ones, because I have like 2 examples of that, they claim that the wife was AS and the husband was AA, and they still gave birth to SS. But when the husband was checked again, they found out it was AS. So I don't know if this kind of thing changes. So if we're having a youth population that are supposed to be the vanguard of what's it called, the society, and we're having parents that are supposed to be doing their daily work and working for Islam, and what they are doing is after having like 2 or 3 sickle cell children, they visit the hospital more often than any other thing that they want to do for their lives. So this actually requires a lot of education. And if the errors are coming from the labs, I think it's something that the Medical and Dental Association needs to take up, because I can't imagine somebody going to check and he was given a result, and years down the line, they find out that the result is not right. I have several examples, but I don't want to go into that now. So in the near future, any other program we'll be having, I think this is one of the topics that we want to hear from our doctors as to what exactly is happening. So to the vote of thanks, we thank Almighty Allah for making this a success. This is the 10th in the series. And I think we are going to be having a break for some time. And thereafter, we're going to resume back on the lecture series, among other programs we'll be having on La Sumega.
So we thank Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has made us to achieve success from the first to this 10th lecture. We thank all our lecturers, especially the lecturer for today, Dr. Isaac Lakin Akintola, the chairman of today's occasion, Dr. Obami, and the two lecturers, as in the technological tip lecturer and the medical tip lecturer. So we pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to enrich our knowledge and continue to accept all our effort as an act of ibadah. And for those that I have not mentioned, including the moderator for today and all the people that work behind the scene to make today a reality, we pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it from us all as an act of ibadah. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamu ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Jazakumullahu khairan. Yeah, Sheikh, we thank our president for such a wonderful vote of thanks. So please kindly mute your mic while I call on our brother Ustaz Abdulrazak Ajadi to give us the closing prayer. Ustaz Ajadi, are you with us?
Yes, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbana zalamna anfusana wa in lam taghfir wa tarhamna lanakunanna minal khasirin. Rabbana ighfir alaina sabran wa thabbit aqdamana wansurna ala al-qawmil kafirin. Rabbana atina min ladunka rahmatan wa hayyi lana min al-amri rashadan. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina azabannar. Subhanaka Allahumma hamdik asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Yeah, thank you very much, our brother. We all thanks, all form of appreciations, all form of glorification goes to Almighty Allah, the one and the only creator, who indeed has made this a success. He is the first and the last, the apparent, the hidden. He is the one who comprehends everything with an incomprehensible comprehension. He is the one whose holiness goes beyond human comprehension. He is the one by whose leave everything exists. He is the one who has made this a success. We give all form of glorification and thanks to him. So I thank you all who have made our time to attend this. May Almighty Allah spare our life to the next edition. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Sallu ala nabiyil karim.
Ameen. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Okay, jazakumullah khair.
Oh, yeah,